impacting the equity, inclusion, and accessibility as our guide. I'm Charisse Luter. I'm the marketing director here at Div Inc. And today we are here to talk about Champions of Change. For those who do not know about Champions, it is our annual fundraising event, but even more so, it's our night to celebrate those who are working within DEI and how they are making Austin a more inclusive place. So today we have our Honorary Chair, Janice Omadeke, here to talk about her experience, her connection to Div Inc., and also just talk about, being a founder. So Janice, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your founder journey, and we'll get started.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Janice Omadeke. I am the general partner at the Fund Texas and exited CEO and founder of the Mentor Method. I moved to Austin 5 years ago, which is when I got introduced to Preston and the power that is Div Inc. And I've just been a huge fan ever since and have loved seeing that journey. In terms of my own entrepreneurial journey, I'm from the DC metro area, started building out the Mentor Method, which was an HR software focused on talent retention and inclusive mentorship. I got into the Mass Challenge Accelerator, one of the top 20 programs in the country, and immediately leapt into the Austin entrepreneurial ecosystem to build that community, gain incredible mentors, and continue getting the skills I needed to grow the company. So over the last 5 years, companies scaled out to have customers including Amazon, the Department of Education, and others. We raised 1.6 million, making me one of the first 100 Black women to raise over $1 million in institutional funding. Thank you. And then last fall, the Mentor Method was acquired, making me Austin's first Black woman to have a venture-backed tech exit. And so now in this next chapter of life, not only am I sleeping a little bit more, but I'm also very determined to make Austin even more inclusive and more equitable so that we can see more traction in the way in which diverse founders are getting funding, they're exiting, and they're getting those resources to continue making Austin a more equitable place.
Absolutely. Well said. Oh my, I would have to say that if anyone was to think about someone who would quote unquote, they made it in our ecosystem within Texas, but just in general, I think they would think of you, especially.
Oh gosh, thank you.
That you've accomplished in such a short amount of time. And because we'll have founders watching this episode as well as those who are part of the ecosystem as a whole. I kind of feel like I want to take a second to pick your brain a little bit about what are the keys to the success that you've had, and knowing that you're kind of what a lot of people are looking towards when they think about their final stages of their company, but also what they're trying to become as a leader and a founder. So what's your leadership journey been like? You kind of touched on it a second ago, but what's that been like, that growth from I got an idea all the way through CEO, founder, exit, and now where you are now?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for your kind words. It took a lot of work and it was not a one-person journey. So thank you for that. I had incredible mentors that helped me along the way and a phenomenal team along that entire journey of building and exiting out of the Mentor Method. So your question was around the leadership journey and then what tools I used as a resource. So my leadership journey started in defense contracting, actually. So coming from the DC area, it's a rite of passage to work in defense contracting. And that was my first example of sort of corporate leadership. Unfortunately, it wasn't great. A lot of misogyny, a lot of bias, and not the best environment for a professional like myself. And so my first introduction to leadership styles is what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be biased. I wanted to make sure that people had enough room to thrive. I wanted to have that benefit of the doubt while also holding people accountable to, their behaviors and actions and the goals that we had to accomplish. So seeing what I didn't want to be was a great catalyst to help me turn into the leader that I wanted to be. So spent the next several years in corporate America, acquiring different skill sets and things, which then translated beautifully into leadership as an entrepreneur, because it's a very different experience than sort of being in the corporate space or having a standard 9-to-5 job. And so that leadership journey, I really focused on building out my empathy, understanding my blind spots. So things that I'm great at and things that I'm not so great at, to make sure that I was building a team around that, to make sure that it was a well-rounded, holistic view of the way in which we needed to go acquire customers and grow the business and get investors and everything else. And I think that was a huge piece of it. I also had a phenomenal teammate named Joseph Kopser. He was an advisor turned mentor to now dear friend. And our 8:30 a.m. meetings every Monday were part mentorship, part humbling, but also a lot of strategic focus. And I learned a lot about leadership and just the way that he mentored me. In terms of the tools that I'm using to date that accompany that leadership style, a lot of therapy. Investing in my mental health has been a godsend and something that I think everybody should do, but especially underrepresented founders, because this journey is a gauntlet. It's hard, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, but having that community and making sure that you have the mental health resources to help you work through those challenges. I saw a night and day difference from when I started investing in my mental health and well-being and when I wasn't in the earlier stages of the mentor method.
Can I just say, I feel like that is incredibly, sadly, brave would be the word that I would use to describe you being so transparent about how
Interesting.
Working on yourself and bringing in that therapy support was a key piece of your entrepreneurial journey. Because I think sometimes those things can be seen as mutually exclusive, or maybe
Yeah.
is more connected to your personal life than it is to your professional life. If this is a little off, but off of our it's a bit of a tangent. But was there one particular thing that you had to, one particular thing that you had to jump over, or barrier that you had to leap over, that really unlocked this next phase of your ability to lead and grow the company and all of that, as it relates to that inner work process?
Well, I want to touch on what you were saying first about the bravery. It's unfortunate that we still consider it brave to say that you're in therapy and investing in your mental health. And that's why I talk about it so much and why I'm a big advocate for it. Because when the mentor method was still a PDF and a dream, like literally that was all I had. Alexa Von Tovel, very successful entrepreneur, had some type of keynote, and I participated because I wanted to learn. And she had this phenomenal allegory for entrepreneurship where she said, you are the boxer in the ring. You have your nutritionist, you have your trainers, all these people, but you're the one that is in the ring, getting bloodied and bruised and in the arena. And nobody else can understand that besides somebody else who has done it. And so getting those resources to help you train, your brain, getting your heart ready for all of those hurdles and barriers that just come with entrepreneurship. And then adding in, I think there was a TechCrunch article that came out earlier last month that said that Black founders only got 1% of all venture funding last year. That is abysmal. And so I immediately empathize with this audience that's going through the fundraising process potentially with that 1% stat, very real and present, knowing that that's a lot of no's, that's a lot of bias, it's a lot of rejection. And so for me, I touched on that pretty significantly when we were fundraising the 1.6 million, to make sure that I was mentally and emotionally prepared for that process. I'm naturally resilient, and I believed in that business so much that I knew that we would be successful and we would get to where we went. But just making sure that I had that fine tuning. Also, the scarcity mindset. I think, especially in corporate America, and as a Black woman, you're told to fit into a certain box, make yourself smaller. That way you don't scare, the executives and those that should be doing their own work to make this workplace more accessible. So just making sure that I was shedding myself of that and making sure that I was bringing my best possible self to the table. And you mentioned sort of the difference between your personal life and professional life. I don't think that's the case.
I agree.
Especially when you're this early in the entrepreneurial journey, it's the same thing. Like, you can have your boundaries. Like, I think boundaries are really important. Something else that I worked on in therapy, to make sure that, when it was my designated block of time to be with my friends, that's where I was, and getting that recharge time. But it's hard to separate the two. And I think that what's happening in your personal life just translates into what's happening at work and in, how you're approaching your business.
I love it. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything. And I do think that like you said, very early on, I always say, even your family has a startup. Everyone is in the startup, whether they're in it or not. Because all things are there is an investment in many different levels, and it's not just financial. It's all these ways that you're investing and seeking that return on that investment in the end. um, I love that you did mention this idea of feeling like you need to be small and you need to kind of um, maybe conformity is the best term, so that you're not sticking out. And as a
Yeah.
segue to champions, I feel like one of the things that DivInc is really great about is creating spaces for those who are in this world to this is your moment to shine. This is your moment to be celebrated, and those who are working in tandem with us in this space, but also those that we're benefiting. So talk. I mean, I know you were a nominee, and you've been a part of Champions probably since the very beginning. This is our fifth year. Probably
Yeah.
every year you've been.
Nominee in 2019, winner in 2020.
Yeah. So if you could talk a little bit about that Champions experience, and what that did for you in being a part of that.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I have a soft spot for Champions of Change and Preston and DivInc. I had just moved to Austin in late 2018, like after the Mass Challenge Accelerator decided to make it home. I'd gone through, a pretty intense family tragedy of the loss of my mom at the end of 2018. And so having the awards and being a nominee in early 2019 was huge for me. Nobody knew who I was. Like I had just gotten here, and so having that validation from people that I highly respect and, giving me the platform to start having more conversations and getting into rooms that I previously was not invited to because of that nomination, that meant a lot to me. And it's something that I still remember and attribute to my timeline so far in Austin. And then winning in 2020 was it was amazing. It was a surprise because the other nominees are people that I just assumed that they were going to win because they're doing such incredible work and I look up to them. And, some of them are people that I was still getting nervous talking to at that time. And it was a shock, but I was just so excited and honored. And to have had Mayor Steve Adler present the award was really incredible. I think Chris Himes might have presented it too. And he's one of my, entrepreneurial heroes that I really look up to and admire. So it just meant so much. And then, of course, we went into the pandemic shortly thereafter. So, having the Champions of Change be the last big event I went to that year, where I was surrounded by so many friends, so many mentors and supporters, and people that I generally cared about before getting into quarantine, that's something that I'll never forget. I think that it actually helped me, tide over through the rest of the year in some ways.
Yeah, and when we came back last year to coming back in person, I mean, it felt like a family
Yeah,
reunion. It
it
was
does. And like, there's just something magical about that. I'm sure like we all go to so many like events and galas and all of the things. I mean, I personally love them. So I love attending, but there's something really magical and special about Champions of Change because it does feel like you're going like back to a reunion or it's like familiar faces of people that are authentic and care about you and you care about them too and their businesses. And it's just so celebratory of people that are doing phenomenal work. And yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite events. I look forward to it every year.
I love how it kind of breaks down the silos, because I would say in this sphere specifically, but sometimes could say this for the tech ecosystem in general, that when we all get like our heads down and we're focused on that one particular project, or as a founder, that one goal or metric that they're trying to build towards for the next phase of their fundraising or what have you, it is very easy to be isolated and be alone. I mean, the founder journey in general can be lonely for everyone, but then with the BIPOC founders, women founders, anyone of the founders that we serve, it can be incredibly isolating on another level because you're the only one in the room many times. So, but I think the Austin community is special in that way, that there are these slices and these moments where we are able to get together and support each other in a real way in person, and then of course celebrate. So to me, it's like that's all the things that that make champions special. But I would want to ask on that topic of Austin and the Austin community. I feel like that we are very much so poised to not just be a tech a tech space for everyone to see as a hub, but also that beautiful intersection of DEI and tech, and it being a hub for that as well. And I'm wondering, what are the things that you see happening in Austin that are supporting those founders that are underrepresented, and what are the things that maybe we could, that are missing, that are things that we can take a hold of and grow in as we're moving into that future?
I think there's work to be done still, 100%. I'd be lying if I said that this is, the most diverse and inclusive ecosystem for entrepreneurs. It isn't, but there is this magic in Austin of, I call it the like Ellis Island, if you will, where it's like you get here. And again, I have rose-colored glasses for this city because it's been so incredible for me. But, it's there's something about getting here. The air is different, the environment is different, and it just feels like anything is possible. I'm proof of that, really. But for early stage entrepreneurs, there are a lot of great programs for underrepresented founders. Obviously, DivInc is, best in class, has always had the intention of supporting diverse founders, and having that as the foundation and cornerstone is something that's a big differentiator and something that I think really helps a lot. Mass Challenge does a lot of great work in, amplifying their diversity numbers. Techstars Austin, that's run by Amos Schwartzfarb, also here in Austin. He and his team have been very intentional about advancing underrepresented founders in a way that I really appreciate, having gone through Techstars last year. There's another incredible cohort-based program called Feely that's run by Jacqueline Brennan, specifically focused on idea and early stage women business owners. And they have an incredible community and tribe that's scaling in Austin as well as the globe. So that's really incredible.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, like the key pieces are there. It just feels like we just need to execute, and it's
Exactly.
gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
happen. I mean, it's gonna happen, and then
It'll
it's
happen. I mean, with
gonna.
the right resources and mentorship and community, it definitely can. We can't just say show up here and you'll make it. It took a lot of work, and I had incredible mentors and advisors that guided me along the way. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I just unpacked my suitcase and $1.6 million just fell from the sky. I had to learn and grow a lot, and I was humbled quite a bit in my early days, and still am sometimes. But I think there's a lot of value in that. And as you're continuing to grow out your business, I'm a general partner at the fund Texas. That means a lot to me because we do have a focus on Texas-based businesses. And we also have a lens for making sure that the entrepreneurial landscape and access to funding is equitable.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we're the first check or, maybe second check in for founders. And I remember my first check, that meant a lot. And it helped me do a lot more than I could have without it. And it sets up entrepreneurs for that flywheel of success with opening up our networks to help other founders, connect with investors and other people in our network. And there is that community and network effect that happens with the Fund Texas. We're actually doing office hours during South by Southwest on Saturday, March 11th, with the intention of meeting a lot of underrepresented founders and founders that are based in Texas to ensure that we're doing our responsibility as VCs in looking at all deals that align in our thesis, but also just so happen to be built by diverse founders.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the South by Southwest office hours. We'll definitely be including that in all of our promotions related to our South by activations. And so when we make that available to everyone, you'll find that on our social media, a link to all of our events, DivInc events, as well as our partner events that we'll be letting people know about. You can follow us. But you mentioned a couple of times in our conversation the connections with your mentors. being a huge part of your growth and a huge part of the success that you've seen. And I'm wondering, was there anything that you actively did in order to connect with those mentors, or was it just, they kind of became aware of you and you became aware of them and it just kind of grew organically, or maybe a little bit of both? How did that happen?
It was a little bit of both. So, in the Mass Challenge program and Techstars, you go through sort of the mentor interview process. Techstars has Mentor Madness, which is the most stressful thing I have ever done, but worth it. And um, you get to meet so many incredible people. And I had a rubric of the types of mentors that I wanted based on my strengths, based on my not so, strong areas of improvement, knowing my personality and value system, and really understanding what the business needed to grow. So the combination of all of those factors helped me get very clear on the types of mentors I needed based on the stages and problems that I was solving inside the business. So there was some of that structured mentorship through accelerator programs like Techstars and Mass Challenge, but then also just getting involved. I would go to Div Inc events constantly because I love that community, and I would meet phenomenal people that just so happened to be attorneys or would be in a similar space that we could do a joint partnership and enter the market together. So I think there's a lot of beauty in having that structure of mentorship while also having space to just meet people on a whim and build those connections over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm wondering if when you built those relationships, was there ever a moment where you said, "Can you be my mentor?" Or did it just you get that
For
question all
some
the time,
people,
like, how do you even, it's like dating. At one point you have to finally say, "I like you." But, at one point you finally have to kind of say, "Can you be my mentor?" and kind of put yourself out there. So were those moments for you where you just kind of put it out there and it just kind of felt right in the growth of the relationship?
of course, of course. Not for every mentor relationship that I've had. With Joseph, it just kind of evolved over time.
Right.
And, like I said, he's a dear friend of mine now. And we've never had that official, like, you are my mentor conversation. But
Mhm.
for certain people, I did. And I would have an actual layout, of, okay, I would love to meet with you about these three areas because I've
Oh,
seen that you've been successful in those and I want to learn from you in these areas. I would love to just have, one conversation a month for 30 minutes. I'll send the materials ahead of time. Let me know the best times that work best for you and are you open to that? But really making sure that there is almost like a scope of work
right.
document where, roles and expectations on my end and on their end were available. We had an open dialogue of, do you have bandwidth? What does mentorship mean to you? Are you open to this? Um, what are the ways that we could work together? If now isn't a good time, totally fine. Perhaps we can look, to work together in the next 6 months or a year, whenever the timing really aligns. So I'm a big believer in the power of timing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely had to have those conversations. I don't think I could have a software company in mentorship without really understanding how to build those relationships. So, very comfortable with making the ask and making sure that it's something that everybody feels comfortable with while leaving room for it to evolve, expand, attract, and just continue on in that journey.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting the scope of work. The scope of work of, why you chose them. It's not just, "Hey, can you mentor me?" It's, "Here are the things that I think I need support in, and here are the reasons why I think you would be the best person for that." And then really laying it out and doing the work for them so that they aren't feeling the pressure to fix the whole thing for you and then come in and also share. So I love that idea. I think we're going to make a note of that in future for myself and for Diving. But so we've talked about mentors, we've talked about kind of that inner work, becoming a part of a community. Is there anything else that you think for founders to have higher on their priority list of things that they should be doing to move forward with their companies and achieve that success?
ask people why they won't invest. When you
Mm,
get a no, ask why. I was
mm,
surprised by this actually. So, when we were raising, I just wanted to know. I don't want to make the same mistake twice. If there was something that I was saying wrong, or if there was something in the business model or whatever it was, I wanted to know. So I would ask why if I felt that this person would be open to giving that like critical feedback. And anytime I asked, people would be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. I wish more people asked." And I thought to myself, yeah, more people should be asking these questions if you're going out and, raising capital. Now, fundraising is not for everybody. So that one is very specific to, fundraising and that idea seed stage. But really understanding why somebody would say no helps you understand how to convert that into a yes, either with them or maybe your next conversation. I think it also, you have to have a certain level of just openness and understanding that you don't know everything. And that learning mindset is very, very powerful. It opens up more doors, it opens up your aperture for how you problem solve and how you get to reaching your milestones a lot faster because oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we are a little, we believe in ourselves, is what I'd say, right? Like you have to be a little crazy and like
yeah.
extremely confident to
You say
think
running
that
for president, you kind of have to have a little bit of
a little cuckoo, but definitely very confident in your ability to take this idea and transform the world. But
yeah.
I think sometimes founders forget that, yes, have that confidence, but also remember that there are people that have that same ethos alignment and have actually done it and have done it successfully. And those
Mhm.
are the people that you want to bring in. And those are the people whose advice that you want to have to make sure that, while you're, I wouldn't say following in their footsteps, but walking alongside them and making your own path based on,
Yeah.
how they navigated the landscape and how they've been able to build their companies and be successful. So I'd say learning mindset, um, understand why people are saying no in case there's something that you can fix, and just be open to the evolution of the way in which your business evolves. Especially, working at the fund, we see so many idea and early stage companies that are like, nope, this idea will never pivot for the next 5 to 10 years, and that is how we'll make $100 million. And it's sweet, but it's not realistic. You have to be open minded to the changes, whether it's coming from the market or your customers are telling you that something needs to change. Having that rigidity around the way that you're building your company will set you up to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. That coachability, that teachable mindset, all of that allows for you to grow, but then also the ability to grasp onto those things, that well-worn wisdom that everybody brings to the tables. But it's that tightrope
Right.
you have to walk. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the you mentioned a second ago that you're going to be doing the South by Southwest office hours. Was there anything else that you'd want to let our community know about that's coming up? And yeah, is there anything else?
Well, we have South by Southwest, so the Fun Texas will be hosting office hours. Look on my LinkedIn for the link to fill out the form, and we will get back to as many founders as possible. For those that are a fit with our thesis, make sure that you are a fit for our thesis before you sign up. And then March 2nd, Champions of Change. I'm so excited. It's going to be great to see everyone there. It'll be great to be back in that community. I've been kind of underground recovering from the exits. It'll be nice to see everyone. But those are the big two, South by and Champions of Change. Make sure you donate for March 2nd to Champions of Change.
Thank you so much, Janice, for being here, and thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing so much and being a support for all of us and being a part of Champions in the way you have and loving on Divink like you have. Thank you so so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And everyone, thank you again for watching this episode and being a part. Until next time, and the next time we do our Lunchtime Link Up, we'll see you then.